What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the podcast. My name is Zeke.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're just two dudes from church. We're good to go. We're ready, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for tuning in to today's episode. We got an interesting episode today for you guys. But before we get into it, y'all know the deal. Hit that like button,
Sir.
Share, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Follow us on social media. We are on all platforms. Go check us out, guys. Today, for today's episode, I was having a conversation with my wife on our way home, and we have a bit of a commute, a good 40-50 minute ride. So we were talking about the book of Proverbs, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And as men in our 30s, we have lived a pretty, we've gone through our adolescence. We're young adults now, and we were talking about the book of Proverbs and how the book itself, the Bible in itself, has many keys to living a life, a righteous life, right? But when it comes to the book of Proverbs, and that's what we kind of want to emphasize, is that this book is just riddled with just wisdom and different verses that we as believers should be applying. And if we applying them correctly to our lives. And we were having this conversation, and a lot of the verses were kind of like, this is kind of like common sense. But sometimes, like I told my wife, I'm like, sometimes common sense is not always common. And sometimes we have to read them again. And we have to kind of say, like, you know what? I was telling her, I'm like, sometimes you read a verse and you're kind of like, wow, that sounds deep. And then you think, like, wow, I can really relate to that. That kind of sounds like me. Like, maybe I should change the way I do this, or change the way I talk, or this, that, and the third. But let's say for someone out there that wants to start getting into the Word and start learning how to live that life, and basically those keys, because we call them keys to life. I would highly recommend that you start in, because like I said, the Bible is just filled with different lessons and keys, but the book of Proverbs would be a great start. And I kind of want to jump into
it, because sometimes we forget that the easy things in life sometimes become the hardest things in life, or the things that you say like are common, or like you're supposed to know, and then we still make it very challenging for us.
Why, bro?
And like you said, we're going to give you a couple things that may help you in your walk in life in general, because we have to understand how important, and we've talked about it, and I've talked about it with a lot of people. Sometimes we're looking for answers, or we have a lot of questions, and it's crazy that our Heavenly Father has given us all the answers that we need,
like for real in the book.
And because sometimes we think, oh, it's just spiritual. No, this gives you every answer that you need if we just open up the book and read. And sometimes I know the excuse for a lot of us out there, I don't get what it's saying. Right? I don't understand what it's saying, because even when you look at later, it talks a lot of parables and a lot of things. You have to connect the dots and stuff like that. But this is the most powerful thing, because we've talked about relationship. If you start to build a relationship with our Heavenly Father, when one of my prayers when I pray is like, Father, help me understand what I'm about to read.
Yeah.
Or give me clarity, or give me better understanding, so that I'm not doing this reading and I'm like, well, I don't get what that said.
I don't know what you're talking
so it's important. But yeah, we're gonna give you some things. It's Proverbs, like you said, Proverbs is a great book, a book full of knowledge, of wisdom that can start your foundation, and then as you get more comfortable, you can go on to other books in the Bible. Because like I said, you want to talk about love in the Bible, you want to talk about wisdom,
everything.
You want to talk about people backstabbing, you want to talk about whatever it is you're confronting. It's in the Bible in one spot or another. You just got to find it and read it, right?
It's fun. No, but it's funny that you say that. It's literally in the scriptures. You can find everything. And that came up in the conversation with my wife and I. She was saying, like, it's crazy because, like, you see other people, like maybe a non-believer or somebody that used to be in church and outside of church, and they're dealing with something, and it's like, it's right in the Bible. Like, it's funny because you'll read stuff in the Bible and be like, oh, I know somebody that's going through this. I'm like, if only they just open their Bible. And there's no excuse. Because right now, like, look what I'm using. I'm using a phone, right? So there's really no excuse.
Especially nowadays, yeah.
So, like, it's kind of like all you got to do is just open the Bible. You know, open the app, the Bible app. It's that easy. But I want to share, like, and this was something I was telling my wife. I'm like, if for someone who's just starting off and let's say wants that, you open the book, you go to Proverbs. This would be the verse that I would probably recommend that you start off with first, and that's Proverbs 9, verse 10, where it talks about the fear. It says the fear of Yahweh is the foundation of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in good judgment. Wisdom, this is verse 11, wisdom will multiply your days and add years to your life. If you become wise, you will be the one to benefit. If you scorn wisdom, you will be the one to suffer. So we've all heard the verse that says that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh. And like a lot of people, when they read the word fear, they think, oh, we got to be scared. It's like, no, it's a reverence. It's a sense of respect to acknowledge who he is, to basically deny ourselves and follow him.
Yeah, no, we have to understand that we have to know that he has all the power. He has the authority. He's the one that allows things.
Yes. And
it's not us that is doing everything or taking the credit for doing things in life.
And it states here, now we have to understand also that King Solomon was the one that wrote Proverbs. And when he prayed, he asked Yahweh for wisdom. He said, you know, he could have asked for anything. Like, hey, what do you want?
It's one of my favorite stories.
What do you want? And he says, no, I want wisdom. Because with that wisdom, he was able to get, and it says that he was the wisest man in the world, the wisest man. And this is the wisest man saying, this is the beginning of wisdom is to fear Yahweh. And he describes that wisdom will multiply your days. But if you reject it, that you will end up suffering. So we know that the beginning of wisdom is fearing Yahweh. But it also says to pursue the wisdom. Pursue that.
Now, question I have for you, for people that are listening. What is wisdom to you? Because even growing up, there's always been a thing of, isn't wisdom the same as knowledge? Or isn't knowledge the same as wisdom? In your terms, what would be the difference?
I think it's more than that. It's understanding. It's applying it. It encompasses so much. It encompasses so much because you can know something, but you don't practice it.
So for me, knowledge is like in layman's terms, like you're book smart. You know the Bible, you can read every verse, you know everything back to front, right? Wisdom is, like you said, the applying of it. So that's what impacts me so much with that story of Solomon is, for me, he was wise before he was given wisdom.
Yeah.
Because you're going to tell me, whoever's listening, that if they go, you can ask whatever you want, and it's going to be given to you. You want $1 million? Yours. You want 100 million? It's yours. You want a mansion? It's yours. You want long life? It's yours. You want health? It's yours. He could have asked for anything. And the fact that he asked for wisdom is really what those verses show you. It's when we choose, and in layman's terms, like, I always do this because sometimes we talk about common sense, right? And so I know people that are book smart, right? They're real smart. They can give me history lessons and they can tell me when the Constitution was, all this stuff, right? They can tell me all the presidents and all this stuff. But then you go to common sense stuff, day-to-day things on how to live, and they're just clueless.
Like, how do you not know how to do
Yes, right? So that's why for me, it's like, you hear the terminology. You have street smart, right? And then you have book smart. You know, street smart is like, I put someone in the street, they're going to learn how to survive.
Yeah.
They're going to figure it out. They're going to do what they got to do. Book smart's what book smart is. For me, that's the easiest way to portray knowledge and wisdom, right? It's good to have knowledge, because it's good that, you know, we know our history, we know where things come from. These stories help us get to a certain level, but if we're not applying what we learn to our lives and how to better lives, so we're reading something saying, hey, if you do this, your life will be better, but then we choose not to use that.
It's like, it's right there.
So that's telling me you're not accepting the wisdom that it's trying to give you.
That is why in school you have exams, you have tests. Because imagine if you went to school and you learned all this stuff and you never got tested on it. And it goes in through here. Very next year,
in a couple weeks.
Well, turn to the third page of the math book, and you look at algebra, and you're like, I don't remember that, because you weren't tested on it. You weren't, because of the test. You have to go back and review what you were
taught.
You were essentially taught, but it goes to say, like I said before, for everything. And like I challenge you who's watching now, just open up just a random chapter in the book of Proverbs, and you will find just like the most incredible things in all aspects. In all aspects, it talks about love. It talks about how literally, I was just on my phone. I just clicked on a random chapter, and it talks about like evil people. How do you deal with evil people? Don't envy them. Don't treat people bad. Don't, just basically how to go about as a believer, as a righteous person, how to live your life. And sometimes it's, you know, even for me, I have to sometimes scroll through it and be like, okay, how can I apply this to my life? How can I better myself as a human? Like, cause it goes, and like I said, no one's perfect. No. You know, and sometimes you will see things, and you'll sometimes have to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I am guilty of this. I am guilty of that. Like, but this is how the proverb, you know, the verse tells me to go about it. You know, this was just an example that I brought up to my wife, that I would hear a lot in my house growing up, and was, a soft answer turns away wrath. What do I mean by that? A lot of times in conversation, it can get heated, and one person starts to scream. Now, your natural instinct is going to say, well, if he's screaming at me, I'm going to scream at him. And now you're both screaming, and it
getting nowhere.
And now it can escalate into, especially with siblings, physical. It can get out of hands. Now we're fist fighting, blah blah blah. But I was told that because it was almost like you have to really think about what you're saying, and you really have to. A lot of police officers will use this, de-escalate. You know, this person's already upset, and they're screaming at you, and it's like, okay, I need to take a breather. And I know it's easier said than done. Like, when you're in that situation, somebody's like screaming at you, and you're like, okay, if I want to de-escalate this, I cannot, no matter how upset I may be, I have to be in control of my own emotions. I have to remind myself, okay, I have to carry myself with, you know, I have to take this easy. Yeah. But I would hear that a lot, because a lot of times, yes, we are very quick, and we're very, you know, and it talks about that. The Proverbs talks about someone who's quick to respond, quick to it talks about all of that.
Look, the beautiful thing about the word is, you want to talk about being real? The word is as real as it gets. And sometimes people read and go, that was harsh, right? But then at the end of the day, you want to hear the truth. You want, you know, the Bible lays it out. You know, it lays it out for you. It goes, you know, if you reject this, yes, you're ignorant.
Yeah.
If you reject this, that means, yes, you don't want good. Like, it's very honest with you, because
that's straightforward.
That's what you need to hear. And it's not saying that you're dumb. It's not saying that, you know, yeah, we make mistakes and we're going to make incorrect things sometimes. But the reason it says that, you know, it says you're ignorant, or it says these things, because the Bible is here to instruct us, right? To guide us in this life. You know, you used to hear this a lot from our parents. I don't know if your parents, my parents, is like, I used to tell my dad, you don't get it, right? You don't understand what I'm living. And then you look back and we see how history repeats itself over and over again in clothing, in whatever kind of form. It's going to end up repeating itself, because we think at least I thought our parents didn't go through it, so they don't get it because it was a different time. But if you look at each situation, it was very similar. The foundation's pretty much similar. The same as the word, these stories that we see, these things that people go through and they overcome. And that's why if you read it, I know you talked about it, it's like sometimes you link up to these stories and go, wow, I'm going through that right now. Like, wow. Because that's what it is, the history repeating itself. And it's not going to go away. So it's like saying someone's in your face giving you all the answers to a test and you're going, nah, I don't want them.
And it's not only
and it's
that.
Not, and it's saying, you're not here. You're not cheating. I'm here to help you. This is what I'm giving to you. I did this. I went through it.
I am the teacher and I'm giving you the answers.
I'm giving you the answers. And we're still going, nah, I don't get it. It's too difficult. It's too much work. Right? And I get it. Sometimes, especially the translation you find in the Bible, it can be very difficult to understand. But again, if you really want something, you're going to figure it out. If I really want to get somewhere in life, I'm going to figure it out. And that's the beautiful thing, because the Bible has different translations. So even when I study the Bible, sometimes I read different translations because, again, they're going to give me different context. They're going to give me keywords that are going to help me understand better. Yes, I'll be honest. I'll be the first one to tell you right now. When I read the Bible, do I understand every time? No. Sometimes it takes me a while and takes me different, translations to really get the essence of what it's trying to give me. But I'm not going to just accept me reading wrong. That's going to be an excuse for me. I don't get it. That's too difficult. No, we in life already have too many excuses. And especially if you're struggling right now with something, if you're struggling with how to deal with your emotions, if you're struggling with anything like that, Proverbs is a very good chapter to start at because it wants to lead you, like you said, to the wisdom. It wants to lead you to love. It wants to lead you to these things that are only going to benefit us, period, right? Because at the end of the day, the word is here to benefit us. It's not here to lead us to destruction.
And it's in reading these things, right, in the Proverbs, a lot of times, like I said before, you read certain verses that you're like, wow, I'm guilty of that verse. But then there's other times where you may read a verse and say, wow, I know someone who's going through a situation like that. Mm-hmm. And in that reading, in that studying, in that pursuit of that wisdom and reading his scripture, we're now able to, I have information that maybe the person next to me who's failing the test, I know he's failing this question. I know he got the answer wrong. Mm. I can be like, hey, I got the answer to that. Listen, do this. This is the right way to do it. You shouldn't act like this. You shouldn't go about it like this, because we have access to his word, and it's not, and maybe that person might not, but we're able to tap into that knowledge, that wisdom that comes from him, and be able to help other people. Because a lot of times, like, we have this information, but it's like, oh, I'm not. Correct. I keep it to myself. You know what I mean? Like,
we become selfish because
and it's like,
we want to benefit from everything, but that's not the goal here. The goal is, yes, to grow in knowledge, to grow in wisdom, but it's also, like you said, is to lend out a hand when it's needed. Because, there's a lot of people that don't know. Let's be honest with you, there's a lot of people that are living lives and they don't know what it is to be in certain situations or do things. And if we can be a helpful hand, if we can be a difference maker in somebody's life, that's, for me, what we're called to be. We're called to be lights, right? We're called to be salt to the earth, right? So we have to understand the importance and the significance in that. It's like, it's good to get into the word. It's good to, get into a secret place with our Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was just preaching about this. It's like, if my cup is filled, I want it to overflow so that I could fill your cup up. Because maybe there's someone that they don't know how to fill their cups up. They don't know where to fill their cups up. So our job now is to, take all this, and now I'm gonna share with you. Here, this is what I've learned. These are my experiences. This is what I went through, so that you don't make the same mistakes I did. But also, we have to learn, and it's difficult sometimes for us. Mm. We have to learn to take advice when someone gives advice.
And that's what talks about it in Proverbs.
Right?
I'm telling you, it covers everything, bro.
Like, for me, I was guilty of it growing up. It's like, people would tell me something like, What you know, right? And then you go back and then go, yo, if
right.
I only listened to that,
right.
I would be so much better off. And, you know, we have to understand that not everybody that gives advice is, you know, they want something from you. Or I think that's what happens with society now. It's like we're so protective now of our things because of everything that's happening around the world. And yeah, there's people that are evil. The Bible talks about it too. There's people that, you know, talks about the enemy that wants to steal what belongs to you, wants to kill, wants to rob, wants to do all these things. But there's people that when they give advice, they come from a good place to give advice. And, you know, we have to learn, the Bible talks about it, not to reject on the spot. You know, listen to what they have to say, especially, you know, our elders, especially these people that have lived it, have been through it, that have done these things. Sometimes I know we go, I'm bored, they talk too much or whatever. Learn to, you know, I learned this the hard way sometimes, you know, especially our grandparents that are still around, those that still have grandparents, you know, ask those questions, right? Get those answers because they have that experience that you want to soak in. You know, don't take everything so harsh or just reject it as soon as they start talking. No, say, you know, take it in, listen. You know, I've learned, take the good, leave the bad. But that's being wise. I'm taking something. I'm not just rejecting and taking nothing, because at the end of the day, they come from, I think, truly, especially the people that care for you, they only want you. They want the best for you. They want to see you in a better place. So, you know, we're not coming from a place of harm or anything like that. So I think that's important for a lot of us to get to that. Yeah, it's good to know your word. It's good to get into the word, but it's also important that we put things into action. Just knowing is not enough.
That's why the Messiah said to spread the gospel.
Yeah.
It's not for you to keep. It's for you to spread that wisdom that we receive. You know, we're responsible. Like, we should share that. Yeah. And, you know, and it's funny because you were talking about that one proverb. That was one of the ones that I was like, man, I'm guilty of. Because, like, I read it one day, and the version that I was reading, some version said that the person that rejects instruction or counsel is foolish. But there's some versions that said stupid. Like, I looked it up, and it says, like, and I sat there, and I'm like, oh, man, I sometimes when people, you know, our parents, growing up, our parents tell you, oh, you know, you should do this. They give you instruction. They give you guidance. And at the moment, you're just like, nah, I don't want to hear that. Yeah. Like, I don't want to hear that. But then you read something like that, like, wow, at that moment, I was really foolish and not taking this instruction. Mm-hmm. And like you said, like, then everything blows over, and you're like, wow, I would have been way better off if I would have just listened.
Yep.
You know? So these are things, like I said, I encourage everyone at home, you know, to open up the book of Proverbs sometime this week. Look through it. Just cycle through it. Literally any page you land on Proverbs, and just start reading it. There is valuable information for your life, for you to obtain to that wisdom that comes from, you're getting direct access, direct wisdom from Yahweh. And it's accessible to us 24/7, anytime. All you got to do is open the book, open the app, and learn and apply that to our lives. And if you know somebody that it could potentially help, you know, we should, as believers, be sharing that with, you know, with friends and families, just sharing that and saying, listen, you know, you're walking down a path where you're not supposed to. You know, I have, you know, access to this book, and I have learned through experiences and all that. And let's, if we can help someone else out, then we should be doing that. And
think of it like this: you're giving someone the keys to a locked door,
basically. So with that being said, guys, like, again, I encourage you guys. That's your assignment for this week. Yes, I'm giving you guys an assignment. I'm giving you homework. We're talking about quizzing and all that. I'm giving y'all homework.
Talking about homework?
Homework. Yeah, I haven't heard that word in like forever. But you guys watching at home, open up the book. Open up the app. It takes literally a couple seconds. And just open up into the book of Proverbs. Start reading. Start learning. Seek his wisdom. And don't forget, guys, that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh. Let's, you know, acknowledge who he is, and what he is in our lives. He is the great I am, the Alpha, the Omega, beginning and end. So don't forget, hit that like button, do your assignment, Share, subscribe. If you feel like this video would be a help to a family or a friend, share this video. Don't forget to check us out on social media, guys. We're on all platforms, okay? Continue praying for us. We're praying for you guys. We love you. And again, my name is Zeke.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're just two dudes from church.